So good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to this keynote speech opening the Leeds Festival of Kindness, Compassion and Wellbeing, otherwise known as the Kindness Revolution. My name is David Mitchley. It's my privilege and a very special pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for this evening, Satish Kumar, who will speak on the subject of compassion at all levels. Compassion in personal relationships, societal compassion, and compassion for our planet and all its life forms. Starting from his life as a Jain monk in India from the age of 9 to 18, Satish's life has qualified him exceptionally well to speak on this subject. After leaving the monastery, he worked with Vinoba Bhave, the leader of the Ghandian non-violence movement after Gandhi's death, to redress economic injustice in India's villages. In 1963, he made an extraordinary journey on foot to the capitals of all 4 nuclear countries and spoke with world leaders, urging them to abandon nuclear weapons. On his return from the United States to England, he met with the economist E.F. Schumacher, one of the founding figures of the worldwide ecology movement. As a result, he became editor of Resurgence Magazine, a world-leading voice in ecological spirituality, which he has edited for more than 50 years, and later became president of the Schumacher Society and the founder and director of Schumacher College, which continue to lead the field in bringing forward a vision of a more compassionate and ecologically balanced world. I first met Satish in 1985 when he was carrying out a pilgrimage around the British Isles to mark his 50th year. He has now entered his 85th year and continues to be a true pilgrim for a better world. In 1996, Satish delivered one of the 4 Leeds Schumacher lectures that were organized that year. Inspired by this, I established Schumacher North in 2007, for which Satish gave a memorable opening address in Leeds Town Hall on the subject of peace, ecology, and spirituality. And Satish has visited Leeds on a number of occasions since then, giving talks and workshops on ecology, spirituality, and related subjects, and has been a great inspiration to the green movement here and around the world. He's continued to be a good friend and mentor for the following 13 years since he opened the Schumacher North in Leeds. And it's with the greatest pleasure that I now ask him to give this opening address on compassion at all levels.
Okay, thank you, David, for this warm and very kind and very generous introduction. It is my great pleasure and honor to be a part of this wonderful initiative in the city of Leeds. And making the city of Leeds a city of compassion is a wonderful vision and a wonderful initiative. And I totally support it and admire it and appreciate it. Now, this whole idea of compassion, kindness, and well-being as the goal for not only the city of Leeds, but also for the whole humanity. And we should make this as our goal. At this moment, unfortunately, the goal of humanity all around the world has been and is becoming and remaining to increase economic growth, increase production, increase consumption. And in my view, the production and consumption of goods and services are the means to the end of creating a society of well-being, a society of compassion, a society of kindness. So our means and ends are confused. What should be the means has become the end, the goal. And what should be the goal has become the means. Now humanity and nature have become the means to produce and consume. So nature is seen as a resource for the economy, and human beings are just labor and just instruments of making economic growth more and more. So economy rules, and nature, ecology, and humanity, we are the servants of the economy. And therefore, the goal of well-being, compassion, and kindness has been left behind or left out of this whole vision. And therefore, I congratulate the city of Leeds to highlight the importance of compassion, kindness, and well-being as a central part of human life. Now, I would like to start that we need to be compassionate and kind to ourselves. Quite often, we are using ourselves as an instrument of economy. And we have lost the sense of that meaning, that purpose, that wisdom, that what is the human life for? We have lost that sense. And therefore, I would like those who are listening to me to pay attention to themselves and say, I am a microcosm of macrocosm. I am the earth, air, fire, water, space, consciousness, and I have embodiment. I am actually an embodiment of compassion, kindness, love, generosity, and well-being. And those values for myself are as important as for others. So paying attention to yourself, being kind to yourself, and even I would say loving yourself, learning to love yourself is as important as all the other things which I'm going to speak about. Loving yourself and being kind and compassionate to yourself is not selfish. We should not confuse ego with love and compassion. If I say I love myself, or I think I am better than somebody else, and I love myself more than somebody else, and I am superior to other people, that will be an ego. But if I say I love myself, but I love all living beings equally, and I love the humanity, and I love the planet Earth, I love nature, I love mountains, I love birds, I love animals, I love all living beings. So unconditionally and an unlimited way, if we love ourselves as we love all living beings, that will be true love. Because love is to realize one's own potential. We have potential to do great things. We have potential to be a great poet, a great artist, a great writer, a great architect, a great gardener, a great farmer, a great cook, a great singer, a great dancer, whatever we want to be, we have potential to be. So loving yourself is a way of self-realization. So I would start with that. Be compassionate to yourself. Then, of course, that is not enough, and we cannot stop there. We need to be compassionate to all human beings. So this is my social compassion. And at this moment, we are divided in our world, and we see divisions between nations, between religions, between political beliefs. So we say that I'm a British, you are French or German or Russian or Chinese or American. So we are separate, we are different. We can be different, but we are not separate. We are all human beings. So we say, we put labels upon ourselves and we say, I'm a Christian, but you are a Hindu, you are a Muslim, you are a Buddhist, you are a Jew, you are some other religion. You are not with me, we are not one. So we make these divisions in the name of religion. In the same way, we make many other divisions. So in order to be compassionate to all human beings, we need to say that we are all human beings as one human community. All these divisions are not divisions. They are expressions of diversity. At the time of the Big Bang, there was no Americans or Chinese or Russians or Europeans or Africans or blacks or whites or capitalists or socialists or Hindus or Muslims or Christians. There was nothing. There was only Big Bang. So over the billions of years, evolution has worked hard to create this wonderful diversity. Evolution favors diversity. And we need to celebrate diversity. It is wonderful to have so many religions: Taoism, Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Jainism, Sikhism, Judaism, Christianity, all the religions. Wonderful. We should celebrate this diversity of faiths. If there was only one faith, only one religion in the world, and 7 billion people followed only one religion, it'll be boring. It is wonderful that people, great prophets, great beings such as the Buddha or Lao Tzu or Jesus Christ or Muhammad or any great teachers, they expressed their way of enlightenment according to the culture, the environment, the soil, the nature of that particular area and a particular people and a particular time. So we should celebrate. So I would say that in order to be compassionate to all human beings, we should say we are one humanity. And all our differences are diversities, expressions of diversity. And we celebrate diversity. And we do not turn this diversity into divisions. So the moment we are compassionate to all living beings, then all the wars will come to an end. All the conflicts will come to an end. All the divisions are gone, then conflicts are gone. And there will be no need for nuclear weapons. As David said in his introduction, that I walked from India to Moscow, Paris, London, New York, Washington, Tokyo, Hiroshima, all those places for peace, for nuclear disarmament. And I was saying to people that why do we need nuclear weapons and arms race and weapons of destruction, mass destruction? We don't need them because we are one humanity. So being compassionate to all human beings will remove the possibility and need of not only nuclear weapons, but all weapons, and very little need for any war or any conflict. Also, if we believe in one humanity and we are compassionate to all living human beings, then there will be no poverty and social injustice and exploitation of the poor. At the moment, there's so much exploitation of the poor and the weak, and people who are working on the land, people are working in the factories, people are working in Bangladesh or Vietnam or Africa or India or many, many poor countries, how workers are exploited at slave labor, sweat labor, and they are making things for us. Our computers, our cars, our clothes, our shoes are made by these people. And they work hard from morning to evening, and they are paid peanuts. They are paid very little. And that is because lack of compassion, lack of kindness, lack of the ideal of well-being. And therefore, the moment we put kindness, compassion, and well-being in the center of our consciousness, then wars, conflict, poverty, injustice, exploitation, they will all, if not diminish altogether, they will be reduced to a large extent. Therefore, I would say be compassionate to yourself and be compassionate to all human beings equally without any discrimination, whether you are black or white, whether you are educated or uneducated, whether you are living in a big city or living in the rural areas, whatever you are, whoever you are, wherever you live, we have a dignity of human life. And we dignify that, and we respect that, we honor the human life. And at this moment, when we have this idea of more economic growth and more divisions and more desire for power, for wealth, for prestige, for status, make great America great again. We are British, Britain is great again. All this kind of superiority of one nation or superiority of one religion or superiority of one race, that will diminish if we are cultivating compassion in our heart for all human beings. So this is why I say compassion should extend from individual person to the whole human being. But even that is not enough. We cannot stop there because human beings and the natural world are not separate. The idea that human beings are somehow superior to nature and nature is there for human use and for human benefit, that idea in the world of compassion has to go. And we have to say that nature and humans are not separate. Humans are as much nature as the trees, the mountains, the animals, the birds, and all other natural life. So we are nature. Everything is made, simply speaking, made of earth, air, fire, water, and then consciousness. And earth is a living organism. Earth is not a dead rock. And forests are living organism. And the animals are living organism. And the birds and even insects are living organism. Even the earthworms, which work so hard under the soil, keeping our gardens fertile. We have to honor the earthworms and say, long live the earthworms, because you are working day and night in the soil, keeping the soil in good heart, so that we can have fruit and vegetables and flowers and trees growing from the soil, so that all living beings can benefit from this wonderful gift from the earthworms. So what I'm saying in a nutshell is that all life is equally valuable, and all life, human life, we of course honor human rights. And we always say that people who are poor, people who are black, people who are disabled, people who are political dissent, those people have right. So we uphold the human rights, but at the same time, we also uphold the rights of nature, rights of animals and forests and mountains and lakes and oceans, because they have right to remain clean and unpolluted and undestroyed. At the moment, human beings are behaving as if we are at war with nature. And this is a wrong attitude. We don't have to think of conquering nature. Conquering nature is a very crude and old-fashioned and somehow misguided and mistaken view. Conquering nature, how can we conquer nature? We are nature. Nature is not only a resource for the economy, but nature is the source of life itself. And so being one with nature and celebrating nature and living in harmony with nature and being compassionate to our Mother Earth, our planet Earth, being compassionate to all animals and birds and forests and lakes and oceans and mountains. And that way we can unify ourselves with nature. That is in a way a very beautiful scientific thinking. This is not, what I'm saying to you is not just a kind of philosophical idea or religious idea or some kind of a few minority of ecologists thinking like that. This is a very important scientific understanding. The great scientist, James Lovelock, who came up with the idea of Gaia. Mother Earth is Gaia, a living organism. This wonderful scientific theory is the latest and the up-to-date scientific theory. And therefore, we must leave the old idea of planet Earth as a dead rock and human beings as the rulers of this natural world and human beings as the conquerors of this planet Earth. That idea has to change if we want to embrace the ideal of compassion for nature, compassion for the planet Earth. We are nature. The moment we realize that, then we will know that what we do to nature, we do to ourselves. If we pollute the water, we have to drink it. If we pollute the air, we have to breathe it. If we pollute the soil, the food from the soil has to feed us. And without soil, without water, without clean air, you can have all the computers and you can have all the banks and you can have all the airports and you can have all the trains and you can have all the cars, but you cannot eat computers and cars and banks and airports and railways and motorways. All those infrastructures are icing on the cake. The real cake is earth, soil, clean water, clean air. That is what sustains life. If we have a if we have a destroyed and polluted nature, and we have all the infrastructure and all the technology and all the science and all the money and wealth in our life, but no clean air, no clean water, no good soil, no good food, then we are in a peril. And therefore, being compassionate to nature is a paramount, urgent, important thing to consider in this festival of well-being and compassion and kindness in the city of Leeds. If we can have this 3 level of compassion, what I say, compassion at all levels, personal level, social level, and environmental level. This is the holistic environmental movement. Because environmental movement, for me, is holistic from the point of view that we consider social environment and natural environment and a spiritual environment as a continuum. Without the natural environment, social environment cannot be very good. Because if we have a sick planet, then we cannot have a healthy society. As I said, that in order to have a healthy people, we need healthy planet. And if you want well-being of people, then you have to have well-being of the planet Earth. If we can have these two together, then this becomes a kind of natural environment as a part of our movement, but also social environment and compassion for society, compassion for people, and a justice for people, social solidarity for people. That becomes a social environment. And then cultivating compassion for yourself in your heart, and being kind to yourself, and cultivating love and generosity and a sense of service to others. This is the kind of spiritual environment. And so the holistic environmental movement globally and around the world is complete only when we bring these 3 dimensions together. I know lots of people want to focus only one or the other. Either they want to say, I want to save the wildlife, I want to conservationist, and I want to conserve nature, and I want to make sure that our oceans are clean and our forests are protected. So they only want to focus on the natural environment. The other people will say, oh, how can we focus on the natural environment if our human beings are suffering from exploitation and injustice? So I want to focus only on human rights and human well-being. And the other people say, oh, no, I don't want to engage in the natural environmental conservation and protection. I want to just, I don't have time for social justice. I just want to meditate and be kind to myself and have a good life myself. I think this kind of partial thinking has to be changed. And we need to shift from this partial, limited thinking to more holistic thinking, where we say that the personal life, the social life, and the environmental life are a continuum. They go together. They are not separate. And in order to build this kind of new society, a compassionate society, we have to do 3 things. First thing we have to do is to protest. We have to say no to the unjust, exploitative order which pollutes the environment, creates waste, and exploits people. So we need to protest. And this is why I support all non-violent, peaceful protest movements like Extinction Rebellion or Greta Thunberg's school strike, where young people, young boys and girls around the world are protesting against the climate change and climate crisis and climate chaos. And so people like David Attenborough has been speaking as well in favor of protecting our environment. So people who are protesting against the environmental pollution and social injustice and the waste of our resources and destruction of our rainforest and pollution of our oceans, all those movements are wonderful, and we have to join them, we have to support them. So first step is protest against what is wrong. But that is not enough to build a compassionate society and a human well-being as well as a planetary well-being. We also need to protect. That's the second step, from protest to protect. We have to protect the biodiversity. We have to protect the cultural diversity. We have to protect the local economies. We have to protect the traditional wisdom. Indigenous cultures have given us so much wisdom, and they have upheld the wisdom for millennia. People in Australia, like Aboriginal people, or people in North America and South America, the indigenous Indians, and people in Africa, the indigenous people, the Kalahari or Bushmen, about which many wonderful books have been written, and also the Aboriginal people and the indigenous people in Northern Europe, and so on, India, China, Russia. Every continent has indigenous cultures. So we have to protect that. And we have to protect the beauty of the world. If we do not protect the beauty and integrity of the world, then we are in peril. And so protecting what is good is the second step. Protesting against what is not good and protecting what is good. And then the third step is to build a compassionate society, build alternatives, show that we are not only saying no, no, no to old order, we are saying yes and yes and yes to a new social order, a new environmental order. So building alternatives, showing good examples of good agriculture, agroecology, permaculture, community living, good education, like I established Schumacher College as an example of holistic and an education of head, heart, and hands. This kind of education. So setting such examples, alternatives, so that we are not only sort of against something, but we are also for something. So this way, in order to create a compassionate society, personal compassion, social compassion, and environmental compassion, to create such a compassionate society, we have to do these three things. We have to protest against the lack of compassion in our social order, and protect wherever there is a compassion in practice. As I said, particularly, for example, in addition to indigenous wisdom, I would like to protect the local economy, farmers markets, arts and crafts. Many, many wonderful people in India and China and Africa make beautiful things by their hand. And we are bringing big industry and big manufacturing machines to destroy those arts and crafts. I would like to protect those and then build alternatives, communities, farms, agricultural projects, craft projects, art projects, ecological projects, build. So this way, my holistic vision for the compassionate society is very broad and very inclusive. And therefore, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the leaders of the city of Leeds and the council of the city of Leeds and the people of the city of Leeds, the citizens of city of Leeds, that you are taking Leeds is leading the way to the world of compassion. So Leeds, lead. Thank you very much for your attention to my talk. Thank you.
Satish, thank you very much. I think it would be impossible to think of a better introduction to our Festival of Compassion than you have given us, Satish. You have really expressed the essence of what our kindness revolution is meant to be about in such powerful words, such passionate words with such conviction and such experience. I am absolutely in your debt for giving such an inspiring speech that will ripple through our city as we go forward. So this is a week-long festival of compassion, kindness, and well-being, but that is just the beginning. So there are many events following from that, and we will be intending to repeat this festival yearly. I think we have just been privileged to have some kind of, the word is coming to me as divine inspiration. Maybe that is a bit over the top, but I feel, you know, this is what we need. We need this kind of deep spiritual message that is in harmony with such a clear philosophical analysis of what is needed, and this heartfelt compassion that you show so unmistakably. Thank you, Satish. It's been a real delight to hear your words. And we now have a couple of questions, and I'm inviting all the participants, please, to put questions in the chat, because we've only had 2 questions that have been submitted so far. But the first question is from Gloria Kimberly, and I'm going to call on Gloria now to give us her question. I need to unmute her. Okay, Gloria, please go ahead.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Satish. It's really lovely to see you again. We met last September, and I was very inspired then, and I'm even more inspired now. My question really has to do with, you know, I'm quite a spiritual person. I'm totally on board with everything you say. But how do we find compassion for those people who do really awful things in the world? You know it's a minority. I know there aren't many. I totally believe that most people are good and kind. But how do we do that? Because sometimes I struggle, in all honesty.
Yes, this is a big, good question. How do you deal with darkness? Only with light. How do you deal with people who are awful? Only by being even more good than we would normally be. Because when you shower with compassion on somebody who is being awful, they will melt. They are being awful because they have suffered in their lives. They have suffered lack of love. They have suffered lack of compassion. They have suffered lack of belonging, lack of relationship. And therefore, only cure for that lack is greater amount of love, so much compassion, so much kindness to them that they cannot but melt away. So only through love. There is a very beautiful poem by Rumi which says that love has a transformative power. With love, copper can become gold. With love, pain can become healing. And so power of love and transformative power of love is never to be underestimated. So we should try very hard to give so much genuine love to those people who are being difficult, being awkward, being harmful. So that's my firm belief that only answer is love and compassion and kindness. There is no other answer. Somebody like Michelle Obama, she said once that if somebody goes low, we go high. So when you go high, the person who's going low has to lift up and go high with you. So that does not, going high, being compassionate does not mean that we succumb to injustice or we succumb to bad institutions. So people like Mahatma Ghandi, people like Martin Luther King, people like Nelson Mandela, people like Michelle Obama, these wonderful women and men, they have shown that you can rise high level of compassion and yet be able to resolve and dissolve the awfulness of imperialism, colonialism, violence, racialism, all the things that we see in the world. These things will remain with us, but all the time, as body becomes ill, we give healing herbs to the body. In the same way, when society becomes ill, we give healing herb of compassion and kindness to society. And this is not one day's event. We are never going to be reaching any utopia. It is a continuous process of life. All the time, like our body becomes kind of dirty. So every day we take shower. If we become hungry, every day we eat the lunch and the dinner. In the same way, if society and a community goes wrong and we get something bad, happening in society, we give our compassion, we give our kindness, and we give our love to make that better. So it's a continuous process. Compassion is not a place of destination. Compassion is not a place of arrival. Compassion is a lifelong journey. It's a journey of life. It's a process. It's not a product. Compassion is not a product, it's a process. And we have to all the time remain engaged in this process of compassion.
Thank you.
Okay, Angela, yes, your question, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Satish, for such an inspiring talk. I'd just like to ask Satish, if you were to visit Leeds in the future, and imagining Leeds that is the kindest, most compassionate city that you've ever visited, I'd just like you to share your thoughts about what you might feel or be experiencing as you're walking around the city. Thank you.
Okay. I very much hope to visit the city of Leeds. When I came there last time, I had a wonderful experience. And even at that time, before you launched this City of Compassion, this program, this idea, even before that, the people in Leeds were most kind, most compassionate, most generous, most hospitable. So I enjoyed my past visit. And so I look forward to coming to Leeds again and seeing people and meeting people and talking to people. And what I hope that when I meet people in Leeds, first of all, they will smile. Because compassion is expressed through your smile. The moment you smile, you let go of your prejudices and your burdens and your anger and your fear. And you express through your smile your feelings of trust. That I trust you, so I smile. You smile, then you say, it's a great pleasure to meet you. And that is open-hearted invitation to be good and to expect that everybody is going to be good. I mean, even in life, we meet some awful situations and difficult people, but largely, if you smile and you say, it's a pleasure to meet you, then your heart is open and you are able to communicate with your heart. We have to move from head to heart. Intellectual discussions are good, but not enough. Head is good, but not enough. And we have forgotten how to speak with our heart, how to meet other people with our heart. If we can open our heart, then compassion will prevail. Compassion will rule. Compassion will be the powerful force, because compassion is the quality of the heart. And we have to speak from our heart. So smile on your face and opening your heart to speak to other people and respect them and say, it's a pleasure to meet you. All the discussions and conversations and communication will be fine. Then, of course, the third thing, which is also of the heart, is hospitality. And so inviting people for a cup of tea, say, let's have a cup of tea. Having a cup of tea together is a very important part of compassion. For me, a cup of tea is a cup of love. A cup of tea is a cup of peace. When I was walking around the world, I was given by a woman in Georgia near the Black Sea 4 packets of tea. And the woman said to me that please deliver 1 packet of this peace tea to our premier in the Kremlin. The 2nd packet in the Palace Élysée in Paris to the President of France. The 3rd packet to the Prime Minister of England in 10 Downing Street. And 4th packet of peace tea in the White House in Washington, D.C. So I carried those packets of peace tea and I delivered that packet of peace tea in the Kremlin in the Palace Élysée, in 10 Downing Street, and in the White House. And I always said that this peace tea, when you make a tea, it's a cup of peace and a cup of love. So whenever I meet people in Leeds or anywhere else, but particularly I would like to come and meet people and have a cup of tea with them. That'll be my pleasure. So that'll be my plan and my project when I come to Leeds next time.
Thank you, Satish. We're definitely going to invite you again. And we have another question. So this question is from Josh Malkin. I'm going to unmute him now.
Hello, Satish. Thank you for that wonderful talk. And my question is, we're living from a perspective that is ultimately degrading and destroying our world. How can we redefine prosperity so that economy supports ecology?
Yes. Ecology and economy are two twins. They're twin sisters. And you can almost say they are identical twin sisters. Without one, the other cannot flourish. The word ecology comes from Greek language, and which means knowledge of ecosystem. So first of all, eco means home. In the wisdom of the Greek philosophers, the entire planet is our home. And logos means knowledge. So ecos means home, logos means knowledge. So ecology means knowledge of our home. And our home means planet home. Because the birds flying in the sky are our family members. They are members of our home. The animals in the forest and the wildlife in the wilderness, they are our members of our family. So this idea that ecology, knowledge of home, is a beautiful idea. So we have to have a knowledge of our planet home, ecology. Then economy. Again, ecos means home, and the nomos means management. So we have to manage, after we know the home, we have to manage it beautifully. So we're managing the economy would be making sure that our oceans are clean, our rivers are clean, our forests are intact and protected, our soil is in good heart and not polluted, and there's no waste, and there's no carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and the air is clean, and the climate is stable. All these things are part of our home. Our home is not only money and banks and jobs and so on. Our home is this planet Earth. So this ecology and economy must go together. And economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of ecology. Without ecology, there can be no economy. But ecology is not a resource for the economy. Ecology, which means nature, is the source of life. The moment we have this new thinking, new understanding of ecosystem and knowledge of ecosystem and management of ecosystem, then that new awareness will lead us to deep ecology. Because deep ecology would say that the nature is not only there for human benefit, which is an anthropocentric worldview. Nature has value, intrinsic value in itself, in herself. And therefore, valuing nature in her own right, that becomes deep ecology. The moment we have a deep ecology, then we need to have deep experience of our natural home. So I would suggest that we need to spend a lot of time in nature. We need to go every weekend, if possible, or even once or twice a day, if possible, to go in nature and sit by the river, or watch the wildflowers, or magnificent mountains, or beautiful lakes, or the oceans. Be in nature. If we are always stuck in our homes and in front of the computers or in front of television or just a kind of shopping, all that sort of box, we cannot think out of box. We live in a box all the time. So getting out of the box and going out in nature and experiencing nature, that deep experience of nature will change our consciousness and change our worldview and change our way of behavior to natural world. At the moment, not enough people know what nature is. They think nature is just a kind of, they're afraid of nature sometimes. So deep ecology with deep experience, and then I think naturally a deep commitment will emerge, that when I enjoy these wildflowers and beautiful forests and lovely lakes and flowing rivers and these great majestic mountains and the oceans, then I must protect them. I must look after them. I must care for them. I must value them. This kind of deep commitment will emerge out of deep experience. So in order to change our world and not do these awful things which you mentioned, we have to change our consciousness. And change of consciousness requires change of experience. And therefore, I would say that people need to leave home, leave offices, and go out and be in nature and be close to nature and live close to nature. And I would also like to say that all of us need to touch the soil, touch the earth through our gardening. Everybody should spend at least some time in the gardening. If Leeds is going to be a city of compassion, I would say the Council of Leeds should provide a lot of allotments for those citizens who want to do some growing of vegetables and touching the soil and touching the earth and being out in nature and be compassionate to nature. So if the city council can provide allotments to all the citizens of Leeds who want to grow some food, there'll be a wonderful example and a gesture of compassionate city. So being in nature, growing your food, and also simplicity. We need to value simplicity and quality of life. At the moment, we think more shopping, more things, more goods. The quantity of possessions has become dominant factor. We need to shift our focus from quantities of possession to quality of life, quality of food, quality of clothes, quality of air, quality of water, quality of soil, quality of life, quality of relationship, quality of art, quality of craft, quality of everything. So if we can shift our focus from quantities to qualities, then I think we can get away from this awful world which you are rightly pointing out.
Thank you, Satish. I think we could put that in a nutshell. If we want to think outside of the box, we have to get outside of the box, get back into nature.
That's right.
And we have, I think, a related question from Jeremy Cox. Do you want to unmute you now, Jeremy?
Thanks, David. Hi, Satish. Thank you for your time and your wisdom. It was lovely to just sink into your lovely speech. It was great. I'm delighted you mentioned James Lovelock. He's been a great inspiration to me in my journey of learning about the science of holism and systems thinking, and that's my work is all about that. And my interest is in helping organisations create better ways of working and better places to work. And you talked about governments, societies, organisations have really confused means and ends. And I definitely see that in all of the organisations I work with. Banks drive staff to sell, even if that's not what customers need.
Yeah.
Governments make ambulance services focus on turning up in 6 minutes, irrespective of whether somebody gets better or not.
Yeah.
And that's actually been institutionalised by the practice of modern management. Yeah. So actually I have a very prosaic question, which is most of us have jobs, most of us are involved in organisations and do work. So how can we apply some of these really deep insights in really prosaic, practical, day-to-day ways to help us improve our practices of day-to-day business, whether we're in for-profit or not-for-profit organisations?
Yeah, very good question. Thank you very much for your good question. My suggestion is at 2 levels. First, if possible, I would like to urge government to make the working week shorter. I would like government to say 3 to 4 days of work is enough. We don't need people to work 5 days a week, because at the moment, we are working too long and too much. And so a shorter working week, if government can do it, that will be ideal as a first step towards moving to a better, a more systemic change. So when people have more time, they will do some creative, imaginative, constructive, ecological work in their spare time, remaining time. But while we are urging government and hoping the government will bring about this policy, individually, if you or anyone listening to this, my talk, can negotiate with their bank, with their business, with their industry, with their shops, wherever you are working, negotiate a shorter working week with your company and say, I will take less salary, but I'll work 3 days a week so that I have 3 days or 4 days for myself, when I can write poetry, I can write a book, I can do some gardening, I can go out and walk in nature, I can swim, I can look after my health, I can look after my family, I can see my friends, I can see my elders. I have so much imaginative, creative, loving, compassionate activities to do, and I have no time because I'm working from 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and weekends only I'm recovering. So take part-time work, and everybody who is doing intellectual work should also spend some time doing practical work. And everybody who's doing some practical work should also spend some time doing intellectual work. Because this division, there are some intellectual workers who only do knowledge economy, and there are other manual workers, they only do physical economy. This division should be a gap. This gap should be bridged, and this division should be healed, so that even farmers should have time to read and sing and write poetry and dance and do some things which are away from manual work. And the intellectuals, professors and doctors and lawyers and computer programmers, they should also do some allotment work and gardening and some craft work and some mending work and building work, so that we should use our hands. We have a whole body. We don't have just a head. At the moment, lots of people think they only have a head and they're working to think, and do nothing else. I think we should use our whole body. We should use our head, we should use our hands, we should use our heart, we should use our body. We should walk with our legs. So I would say, in order to create a better balance of your life, go part-time and balance your intellectual work with your physical and manual work. I love gardening and I love walking, and I also write books, and I edit magazine, and I teach in Schumacher College. But so both these two things go together. This way we can start a new way of more balanced life.
I think I can start getting my clients to do gardening as well as the intellectual work that they do.
Yes,
take that on as a challenge.
Thank you, Satish. That is indeed a wonderful vision, to have a more integrated, balanced life for everyone. I think that's so important. Just checking, we have some more questions. We have time for a few more. Okay, question from Harsha. So I'm going to unmute you now, Harsha. One moment. Okay, yes, go ahead, Harsha.
Thank you. Namaste, Satish. Thank you so much. Namaste. Thank you so much for your talk and for responding to the questions so beautifully. And I think you have already started to answer the question that I'm sitting with. And so the question is, how do we teach self-compassion and self-care to change makers, activists, people that are fighting injustices every day? So people who spend their lives giving and who neglect their own self-care when they're being of service to others. So how do we teach self-compassion and self-care to these people who give every day?
That's a good question. Thank you. Thank you. Namaste. I would say that people who are engaged in care, people who are activists for social change, environmental movement, all those wonderful work that they are doing, that is good. But you cannot do that without yourself being contented and being nourished. As we feed our body with food, we need to feed our soul as well with some meditation, for example, and compassion. So I would say the activists who are engaged in social change and people who are engaged in social care, they need to start their day with a period for themselves and take some time for their meditation. Meditation is a medicine for the mind and medicine for the soul. So if we can start with meditation, and that time when you are doing meditation, you are focusing on yourself. How I can nourish my soul? How can I nurture my mind, my heart, my inner being? Because the outer and inner cannot be separated. As we feed our body, we have to feed our soul and spirit and mind and emotions. So recognizing that inner and outer are two aspects of one single reality. You cannot just try to change outside without changing inside. Like in a room, we have walls. We must keep the walls good and strong. But room inside also has to be clean and well kept and looked after. So in the same way, inner and outer are two aspects of one reality. This we have to understand. So the activists, the carers, people who are working in hospitals, people who are working in schools, the social activists, all those who are giving their life in the service of others, they have to also think that we have to be the change that we want to see in the world. We have to be compassionate and kind to ourselves, and we have to love ourselves. If I want to feed other people, and if I'm hungry, I will slowly kind of collapse. So in order to feed other people, I also feed myself. In the same way, if I am caring for others, I have to also care for myself. So inner and outer, balancing those two together is important dimension. So how you teach them? Teaching is a very kind of simple way that you communicate. It's not preaching. Teaching is not preaching. Teaching is not judgmental. Teaching is not putting somebody down. Oh, you are wrong, I'm right. No. Teaching, like a child, you teach somebody with compassion yourself and communicate and say these ideas to them. And also you teach by example. When you are and being an activist, but at the same time, you start your day with meditation and you eat good food and you are doing some time in your allotment. You show with your example, you radiate like a radiator radiates heat. You radiate that holistic change, inner and outer balancing act you do. So you teach by example, you teach by kind and sweet and beautiful words and communication, and through poetry, through music, through art, through words, through books, you teach. And this way, it's a long process, but I think our activists and carers need to take care of themselves. Otherwise, they will burn out. And we don't want our activists to have any experience of burnout. So in order to stop that burnout, we need to meditate and take care of ourselves.
Thank you, Satish. I think you've just given a wonderful advertisement for Jamyang Buddhist Center Leeds, where I'm teaching. And we are going to be doing compassion training there as well, and self-compassion. So I invite you to check out what we have to offer. But it's so important that we all need to nurture and look after ourselves in the active work that we're doing. So I would like to call, we have time maybe for 2 more questions. Is that okay, Satish?
Yes,
Yes. Okay. So I'd like to call on Angela again. Angela had a second question. I would like to hear that. I'm unmuting you now, Angela.
Hi, Satish.
yes.
Yeah, my second question was about how do we engage those people who think that their small part in making the world a better place, a kinder place, more compassionate world is of insignificance. You know, those people that have that perception of that it doesn't matter because I'm just one person.
Yes, good question. Have you heard of hummingbird? Hummingbird is a small bird, and when the forest is on fire, the hummingbird goes to the sea and takes a little drop of water in the beak and puts the water on the forest fire. And some monkeys and other big animals say to her that, what are you doing? How are you going to stop this fire? By drops of water in your beak. And the hummingbird says, it's a kind of imaginative, poetic idea. Hummingbird says that I am doing my bit. So we all have to do our bit. If all of us do our bit, then world is made of individuals. World is made, I mean, we have 60 million people in Britain. Each person's vote matters. If you say, oh, if I vote or not vote, doesn't matter, I'm only one person, why should I vote? If everybody stops voting, there'll be no election. So every person's vote matters. Every animal, if they all bring a drop of water or whatever water they can bring to the forest fire, it will help the forest fire. So we all need to put our contribution, whatever we can. If we do our job, our duty, our way of serving the world and looking after the world, then world will take care of itself, because world needs every individual person. There is no monolithic group or government can do anything. Even if government wants to do something, they can only bring a law, they can only suggest an idea. But if individuals don't do it, then it will not be effective. So in order to make any change, any transformation, each and every individual needs to take personal responsibility and say, I will be the change, I will participate, I will contribute, I will do my best. If I can do my best, then everybody will do their best. So we cannot expect other people to act without ourselves acting. So do whatever we can and take personal responsibility to our best of our ability.
Thank you. Such an important message. And this is what we want to call on everybody in the city as we go through this festival, that everyone has a critically important part to play. No one is to be left out. We have one more question, and it's from Paul Heaney. So I'm going to unmute you now, Paul. One moment. Okay, go ahead, Paul.
Thank you very much. Hello, Satish.
Hello.
My apologies for my lateness in arriving here today. I had 4 hours I'd spent today doing my bit to save my event, which was to do with a heritage festival. And I'm trying to educate people about using critical thinking. And that's my question to you, Satish. Do you think, as I'm noticing a lack of critical thinking and listening to the heart at the moment,
Yes.
people just following the herd, if you like,
Yes,
thinking
yes.
themselves, their intuition, doing research. What do you have to say on that?
Yeah, the lack of critical thinking. Yes, I think people need to question. Questioning is very important. If we don't question, then we don't get answer. And if we don't change anything, all the examples of transformation we see in the history, whether it's a civil rights movement in the United States, the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa, the India's independence movement, all the great movements started by this, what you call critical thinking or questioning the system. asking the questions. Is this right? What are we doing to our planet Earth? What are we doing to nature? What are we doing to rainforest? What are we doing to animal kingdom? What are we doing to the soil, which we are polluting with chemicals and fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides? What are we doing? This kind of questioning mind is the first step to address whatever problems there are in the world. If we don't question, there's no answer. If we don't ask, there's no answer. So we have to ask, we have to question. So this critical thinking and questioning mind is the first step towards a social transformation, personal transformation, and also ecological transformation. And in order to do that, we need to educate our young people. At the moment, our young people in schools, colleges, and universities are sort of brainwashed to think that the only way to survive is to pass the exams and get a job. Education is not just to get a job. Getting a job is only a kind of sideshow. Of course, we need to have a livelihood, and livelihood is greater than a job, because livelihood is something that you do what you really enjoy doing, and you find meaningful work, and you find a kind of joy in your work. So that's a livelihood. Job is you do just for money. So I think millions and millions of young people being kind of educated to not question the society, not question the economic system, not question the industrial system, not question anything, just fit in the market system, fit in the economic system, and just do a job as you are told. And so millions and millions of people are rule bound. They just do what they are told. They just do what the company tells you, or the government tells you, or the industry tells you, or the boss tells you, or the rule book tells you. And that is why our creativity, our imagination is suffering. And so we need to bring that into our educational system, where our young people are more imaginative. And imagination requires questioning and critical thinking. And so I would say we have to start with education and not have brainwashing the way to follow the herd. Just follow the way. So the rules cannot be changed and systems cannot be changed. You have to just follow the system. And so we are all following the herd. We just 9-to-5 jobs and get the money. And so this is a big question. And I think we need to start with young people and educate them to be questioning mind, critical mind, and looking for meaning, looking for purpose. For me, that is where the work of imagination and creativity is very important.
I'm so glad you said that, because this is exactly what I see. You actually used the word job, which I was going to mention myself, that we're all fixated on getting a job. What does a job mean? I think for many of us, it's a job that is a part of a slavish activity, and we're not really doing what is connecting to our hearts. So I absolutely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
At Schumacher College, when after 1 year students leave, I often say to them that now go in the world, but don't look for a job.
Right.
Create your own livelihood. Create your own work so that you can use your imagination, your creativity, your initiative. And create your own livelihood can be a bit more, you can say, cooperatively. You can have a small community of people creating a cooperative and working together as colleagues and creating your own livelihood in a group of community and collectively and cooperatively and working together is good. But just joining a big system and just getting your salary and not having opportunity to use your own initiative, your own imagination, your own creativity, that will destroy your life. So meaningful work, creating your own work and using your imagination and creativity, that is the way to find more joyful and more contented and more happy working condition.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Satish, and especially for that last message on the importance of questioning. Question everything, somebody said. And you're a person who has done that throughout your life and really, challenged the unquestioned assumptions of our society in such a profound way. So I once again, I would like to thank you from my heart for not only your inspiring talk, but your wonderful responses to the question. I'd also like to thank the questioners. Here they are, our audience today, our invited audience, for such a rich basket of questions that really have helped to bring out the depths and the other dimensions of Satish's message. So I just one final word, then I would like to thank everybody once again. I think this has been the best possible introduction to our Festival of Kindness, Compassion and Wellbeing, the Leeds Kindness Revolution. And those of you who are watching, I urge you to please go to our website, kinderleeds.org, and look at the very rich program that we have planned for you throughout this week. There are many events, many different kinds of events. There is something for everyone. And I wish you all the spirit of kindness and compassion and well-being to be with you now and ongoing. Satish, thank you once again, and please come back. We will invite you again. Hopefully next year you can come to Leeds in person and we will offer you a cup of tea.
Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to coming to Leeds.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Okay.
Thanks, David. All right.
Thank you.